this event along with Lakeshore Public Media. And I do want to just give a shout out to the Park Department. They have been so gracious to allow us to use this room twice to hold the primary Republican debate and this one. So I really want to thank them for that. That has been really great. For those of you who don't know, the League of Women Voters, as stated in our bylaws, are to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation in government and to act on selected governmental issues. The League shall not support or oppose any political party or candidate. We speak for voters, not a party. We are committed to doing what we were founded to do, stand up for what is right, and support legislation that advances voting rights. Now I will turn you over to Tom Maloney, who is our moderator.
Thank you. There's a lot of y'all tonight. How's everybody doing? All right, we will do our best to keep this to about an hour, maybe a little bit longer, depending on the audience participation for the evening. I work both sides of the room behind me here and the candidates. I'll do my best. Thank you all for joining us tonight at Woodland Park for tonight's debate for mayor for the city of Portage. Joining us tonight are Sue Lynch, the Democratic nominee and incumbent mayor. Her challengers are Republican nominee Austin Bonta, and in the middle, Green Party candidate Michael Cooper. I'll address the clapping in just a moment if you've attended the debates before. The city of Portage is in a unique position for growth, already the largest city in Porter County, take that Valparaiso, and the third largest in Northwest Indiana. This opportunity for growth extends to the future double-track extension at Portage and Ogden Dunes, Willowcreek Road's potential extension to Route 30, as well as other infrastructure opportunities. However, a recent rise in crime and the need for government loans could potentially hamstring the city. We'll get into those topics and more in tonight's debate. Early voting begins October 23rd and ends November 6th. The registration deadline for voter registration has passed. Tonight's debate is made possible by the League of Women Voters of Porter County, as well as Lakeshore Public Media 89.1 FM. I'm Tom Maloney, tonight's moderator. This debate will be broadcast on Wednesday, October 18th at 7 p.m. on Lakeshore Public Media 89.1 FM. Write that down for your wife. We've talked earlier. As well as live streamed on Facebook currently. For tonight's debate, we encourage the audience to ask questions. Again, no cards will be passed out, or you can go to the back table. We want to thank the members of the Junior ROTC from Portage High School for joining us tonight to go ahead and pick up and pass out those note cards. Tonight's questions will come from myself, as well as from all of you members of the audience. Please make sure, though, when asking a question that it pertains to all three candidates, and I ask that you hold your applause until the end of the debate following the closing statements from each candidate. The rules for tonight's debate are as follows. Candidates have 60 seconds for their opening and closing remarks. Each candidate will also have 60 seconds to answer each question during the debate. Rebuttals are not permitted, but candidates can use their time to answer or rebuttal from a previous question. There is no saving of time, therefore, if a candidate does not use all 60 seconds, that time is not permitted to be used by the candidate again. We also ask that all candidates do not campaign for other elected offices while debating this evening. Before tonight's debate, candidates drew numbers to decide who would go first with their opening statement and who would go first for their closing statement. With that, Austin Bonta has 60 seconds for his opening statement, followed by Michael Cooper and Sue Lynch. Michael then will answer the first question first, followed by Sue and Austin. Austin?
There are chairs over there.
We got chairs.
Somebody really wants to sit down, we have chairs over there.
Do I get chairs over here?
Two chairs right here. Come on down.
All right. With that, Austin, you have 60 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you to the Portage Junior ROTC for your assistance tonight, to the Portage Park Department. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Michael, for being here tonight. And thank you to all of you. I've been here for more than a half an hour watching people coming in, and it just reminds me that one of the best things about Portage is we take our city seriously. Whether that's getting excited about a turkey roaming up and down the city, whether that's getting excited about the Nativity Fest coming back for the first time in 3 years, whether that's about getting excited about a mayor race. I think a lot of people here know me. A lot of people have been following the race. All I want to say right now is I'm so excited you're here. I'm so excited that we've got this chair problem because it shows our enthusiasm. And I am so excited to talk about the future of Portage and how we're going to move in a positive new direction.
Please hold the applause. Michael, 60 seconds.
Thank you to the people of Portage who are engaged in this important dialogue at the heart of our democracy, to Lakeshore Public Media, and especially to the League of Women Voters of Porter County. I stand tonight in solidarity with the League who, at last month's Porter County Board of Elections, the League challenged the shortening of this election's early voting period by our local Board of Elections to just 2 weeks. What Trump Republicans have been trying to do across our nation, the establishment Democrats in Porter County have been able to accomplish right here in our own city. 3 establishment Democrats and 2 Republicans decided it was a right thing to do for the people of Portage to limit our voting from 28 days to just 14. Last year, another establishment Democrat, Mayor Lynch, failed to open up our redistricting process to public input. The establishment Democrats on our Common Council didn't change one single inch of our lopsided council districts because they like the way that things are, and they wanted to keep their seats. I don't like the way things are.
The bell will ring at 60 seconds. Sue, you have 60 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and Lakeshore Public Media for hosting this event tonight. This election is about who is most qualified and experienced to lead our city. When I became mayor, our city was in dire financial distress, and we had to borrow money to make our payroll. Today, our city is prospering. We're building new homes and businesses like Amazon Data Center and expanding others like Fronius, adding small businesses. We are making positive changes to the downtown by modernizing City Hall, a place for all the people, and are in negotiations with a major development on the north side after a failed sport resort debacle. I'm honored to be endorsed and supported by the Portage Police, FOP Lodge 145, and 9 unions. Our future is bright. My experience and knowledge have brought us here, and now is not the time to take a step back.
Thank you. Please hold your applause. Please hold your applause. Thank you. Answering the first question first will be Michael. Through the last few years, we've seen and heard many politicians across the country deny the results of their local elections. Will you accept the results of this election as decided on by Portage voters?
Yes, of course. In 2016, I joined the majority of Portage's progressive base and cast my vote in the primary for Bernie Sanders, who won in Portage by double digits. In the general election, I once again stood with Portage progressives and pushed Hillary Clinton to a popular vote win here in the city. 4 years later, I was back again to vote for Bernie Sanders. I'm proud of my votes. Now, I can't make the other 2 candidates tell you who they voted for in 2016, only what my voting record and how I am proud of what I have done as a progressive, and that is my action. My action has been working for green spaces. My action has been working to keep lead casting plants from being built next to the sledding hill at Countryside Park. My action has been working for Medicare for All with a group of retired steelworkers, nurses, and progressives because health care is a human right. Working with residents around the old Dresswell cleaners to make sure that the remediation company doesn't maximize their profits at the expense of residents on our west side.
Austin, you have 60 seconds.
Yes, I would absolutely accept the results of the election here in Porter County, here in Portage. We have, Indiana is a benchmark state for election integrity, and we've been for a number of years. We have a strong and good Secretary of State's office, and we have an excellent clerk in Jessica Bailey, who works in a bipartisan way with our election board. I have full faith in the process here in Porter County and always have, and we're blessed to be here in a place where we know our vote counts.
Sue, you have 60 seconds.
I will absolutely accept the results of the election, and I'm honored to be on this ticket, and I'm thankful to our candidates who are standing here tonight and supporting the fact that we will accept this results of this election.
Answering first on the second question, I actually got Sue and Austin swapped on the first one, so we'll reset on that one. Answering first on the second question will be Sue. If elected mayor, what is your strategic plan?
My strategic plan is to continue going forward like we have. We have started a lot of projects in our city. I want to make our city a vibrant city for all of our residents so that they come here and they stay here and they raise their families here. We have a lot of infrastructure projects that we're working on, and I want to continue working on those projects because they're important. The underground of our system is as important as the above ground of our system, and we have dedicated ourselves to working on wastewater treatments and sanitary line issues. It's very, very important that we continue to upgrade our city. We are growing as a city. I think we need to embrace that change and continue to bring new businesses. We're not going to get new businesses in our city if we don't have rooftops to support those businesses. So when people come in, our businesses want people in our city to go to their businesses.
Thank you. And just a heads up, an in-house comment, I suppose. I'll let candidates wrap up their closing or their statement. If the candidates are still continuing to go past the bell, I'll go ahead and do my best to interrupt you there and cut you off. I'll try not to, I promise. Austin, you have 60 seconds.
In Indiana, every city has to have a strategic plan, and best practice is for that to be updated every 5 years. This January, Portage will have not updated ours in 15 years. So my top priority as mayor is to begin that process. It's not simply making a wish list of things you want. It's not simply just the mayor and the council giving what they want. It's a process that brings in all the residents, involves focus groups, meetings, debates about what we want our future land use to be, what issues we want to pursue, what projects we want to see in the city, and it becomes the fine print that the council and the mayor can cite for ideally the next 5 years to demonstrate to constituents that we're working on what we agreed to as a community. Portage has some amazing assets that we should be really looking at. One of the big ones is that we have 40,000 people here. We have a surrounding area of almost 70,000 people and 44 million people that drive through each year. We want to be able to make sure that people want to move here, work here, and shop here.
Thank you. Michael, 60 seconds.
First, I'll be restructuring the organization in our city with more focus on business administration and human resources and less on carving gourds and PR videos with garbage trucks. This will be accomplished with a central team of management professionals that will make strategic decisions and support our department heads. Second, we need to start revitalizing our communities through fixing some of the strategic structural problems throughout our city. This includes sidewalks, neighborhood parks, and amenities that can be done by fixing how we do TIF, that shadowy money which has been used by Mayor Lynch to fund her multi-million-dollar pet projects. Third, I will be working with our city council to overhaul our zoning and development standards, which is the real issue, not the comprehensive plan that Austin rattled about. One of the priorities will be to reduce the amount of required asphalt and increase the amount of green spaces and trees. It's a lot cheaper for a developer to leave larger areas of grass and to make a bunch of parking spaces that will never get used. My administration will be smart.
Thank you. That's your time, Michael. Answering first on this question will be Austin. Changing the city classification was mentioned during the campaign. What are the costs and benefits or negative effects, especially to taxpayers, of such a possible change?
So going from a third-class city to a second-class city, which I got to state has nothing to do with whether we're a good city. That's just Indiana has to have a designation. Third-class city means that we've got an elected mayor, an elected clerk treasurer who handles the record keeping, the finances, and we have a 7-person city council. A second-class city, which we have the ability to shift to come 2027 if we vote sometime in the next 4 years, means you still have an elected mayor, but you have an appointed comptroller who handles the financials and an elected clerk, 9-member city council. I wanted to make sure everyone knew what that meant. There are definitely pros and cons. I think the thing that we need to be thinking about right now is making sure that we first develop a good working relationship between the next mayor, whichever one of us that is, for the next 4 years, and the next clerk treasurer, because there'll be a new clerk treasurer no matter what in this election. We've had a long history of different administrations having trouble between those two offices, and so I think we need to focus on fixing some of those issues first. Hopefully we get to address that a little more. I know I'm out of time.
Michael, you have 60 seconds.
The one thing that Austin didn't mention about our reclassification, we will be able to have our own public health department. One of the things that is important for me in the city is our public health and the health of our communities. And having those services here in the city and not dictated by whoever is sitting at the county building in Valparaiso is important for me to keep our communities healthy. We have a lot of people in our communities who need those services. So one of the things that I'll be weighing as if elected mayor is, can we get those services up here? And if not, can we leverage our changing of our status to make sure that we get those services that our residents so desperately need here in the city?
Thank you. Sue, you have 60 seconds.
So I have looked into the second-class city since I was on the council, and because Portage came in this administration woefully lacking in funding, I felt that becoming a second-class city would be more expensive. I didn't see where it was going to make any big difference. The people have the right to elect the clerk treasurer, and if they don't like them, they cannot elect them. So I feel that it's just an added expense for the city. And as far as a health department in the city, we do have a satellite health department in our city already. So I don't see any reason to have redundancy because it's more expense to our city. And there's other things we need. The health department is functioning here in our city, and I don't see a problem with them currently. And I can't see why we would go to the expenditure of having that. The other thing is with a controller, I feel that that person would be more aligned with the mayor, and
That's your time. Thank you. Answering first on the next question will be Michael. Given our proximity to Lake Michigan, do you have any plans to encourage development as a lakefront community?
Yeah, our lake is our most valuable asset that we have here in Portage, and we're going to be seeing some dramatic changes and along our lake shore as we continue to grow into the national park. The national park is going to be one of our next economic drivers for the city of Portage, and it's important for us to make sure that we put the industries up there that will attract the people who are visiting our national park. The national park has one of the most visited national parks in the system, yet a lot of those amenities that they're looking for, we do not have in our city. So how do we grow into that, redevelop our hospitality sector, improve, build those job base so that we can kind of grow into where we're going to be in the future, where the money is to bring more development here in Portage.
Thank you. Sue, 60 seconds.
So one of the things is when we came in, we had 176 acres of property up north that was tied up in a bankruptcy from the failed sport resort. We were able to get that back after 6 years of being in bankruptcy. We now have a lot of interest in our city. We've had a lot of businesses coming to us. We're very well aware, as they are, that we are a lakefront city and that we have great opportunities up there. So I feel that we are in a position now to select who we want to see coming into our city and developing on that 176 acres. It's really important that we get the right mix of development up there that will grow our city on the north side. So we are working with a company right now, and we're very excited about it. Unfortunately, we can't talk about it. But there are opportunities up north because of that lake, but we don't have any control over the property up there. It's all national lakefront.
Thank you. Austin, you have 60 seconds.
Whew. So, we have a great lake, and I love the amount that we have, our piece of Michigami, as I like to call it, but we need to be realistic about how big our beach really is compared to the land in Portage. Love going to the beach, but what we really have that's an asset is our waterway. The fact that from the lake you can go inland on the water. We have a marina where just 2 weeks ago, a couple sailed all the way from New Zealand to get here. We get people from the Carolinas, people from Georgia who end up here in Portage. And so making a good relationship with the Port Authority and to do things along our river, if you will, or waterway if you prefer to be politically correct. We also have to acknowledge that we have a lot of low-hanging fruit on our north side, not just north of 94, but along Route 20, where we have at least 24 properties that are mixed zoned right now, which makes them very difficult to develop without going through the city first, and that can be very expensive for a lot of people. working with the planning department and the council to fix those zoning challenges, and in some cases, property ownership challenges, will give us more places to develop on our north side.
Thank you, Austin. Question number 5, Sue will be answering first on this one. There have been several things that have been initiated to include inclusivity and diversity in Portage. What are your plans to increase visibility and accountability in these aspects of our city?
I think one of the things I can say is I believe at this point, we're one of the most diverse cities that we've ever been. We have been very methodic in selecting people for our boards and getting diversity on our boards and including people, not excluding people. We have passed resolutions on that, and I feel that we have done a better job at bringing diversity into our city. And it's very important because the face of our city is changing, and we recognize that. And we have to grow with that diversity and include people. As I walk around the city and meet people that are not involved in our city, I invite them to join our boards and become a part of us, because we need to be the face of who our city is now and not the same old people. I made a lot of changes on our boards because I felt we were lacking in diversity. And I think you will find, if you watch our board meetings and see who's...
That's your time. Austin, you have 60 seconds.
Portage has always been a diverse community, and it's showing even more now than ever. And that's something that I think is great. I've known it as a child growing up here, and I especially learned it working as a special education teacher for 6 years in our schools, serving everybody from all sorts of backgrounds. When it comes to how we show that and how we make sure that people are being highlighted and protected, one of the things I'm very interested in is developing what's called a Human Relations Council here in the city, which I could get into a whole lot of things that it can do, but the main thing to do is highlight that diversity in our city and show opportunities for interaction, for opportunities for education, and opportunities for celebration. When it comes to the boards, one of the things that I'm very interested in doing, because I've served on a number of city boards, I believe we all have at some point or another. In my case, it was because I sought out the interest and there were mayors willing to put me on, or in one case, a fire department willing to put me on. But when it comes to the role of appointing people to the boards, I'd like to have an open door policy where we invite people to come and apply for it.
That's your time. Michael, 60 seconds.
Thank you. Sue and Austin have talked about boards. They have not talked about city employment. One of the challenges our city has is that we have not been very good at recruiting minority candidates, qualified minority candidates for positions. And one of the reasons is that we lack a centralized human resource department. Any business that has as many employees as we have as a city relies on those type of professional people to make sure that the hiring processes in our city are blind to color and different factors. Yet here in Portage, we need to change that. We need to be more have more recruiting focus toward people of color and minority communities so that they can get into city jobs and have city services. Be a part of kind of what we do as a city. I was with a group of residents that came before City Council 8 years ago.
That's your time. Answering first on this next question will be Austin. There is no Human Resources Department for the City of Portage. If elected mayor, how will you reshape the current government structure for the city?
We absolutely need to have a human resources department. I think that it is essential. I believe in 2019, the City Council actually voted to remove it from our code. We need to get it back, and I need to do everything legally in my ability to get it back sooner if we can. Whether that's done by hiring an in-house department or whether that's by getting a firm that specializes in that. When we think about HR, I think most people just think about, the people who make sure you fire somebody correctly. But HR is actually, when done right, proactive. It's how you make sure that policies are being followed, making sure that people are staying healthy, making sure people know all their rights and all the opportunities they have, because there used to be a sign, maybe it's still there, it was a rather sad sign. It said, if every wife knew what every widow knows, every funeral will be pre-planned. Some of you guys might have seen that on Central Avenue. To speak to recruitment for all our city departments, if every rookie knew what every person who's been working for a city for a while knows, everybody would want to be a City of Portage employee.
That's your time. Michael, you have 60 seconds.
I kind of touched on that in the previous question. I don't really know what questions are coming in what order. So I will continue. 8 years ago, I was with a group of residents who put together a human rights ordinance for the city of Portage, focused on how do we make sure that Portage is a place where people feel valued, and issues that arise among our very diverse communities are addressed in City Hall. We presented that 21-page comprehensive ordinance to the ordinance committee where Sue was sitting on, and even though we had worked with several of our elected officials on that, the ordinance committee did not like what we presented. They didn't like 21 pages of comprehensive ideas of how to improve inclusivity here in Portage. And so they took away everything except for the cover page, left us with just a statement which they could post on City Hall. We need to be better and do better for all our residents in Portage.
Thank you. Sue, you have 60 seconds.
So the first year we were in office, we did a study. We hired a company that came in and did a human resources study for the city to see where we were lacking and where we need to make improvements. Unfortunately, we also came in with $4 million in debt and could not afford to pay a human resources person after looking at the cost it was going to be. So our attorney has handled all of our human resources. We have not been ignoring our human resources at all. We reach out to people, we reach out to other human resources persons, but at the time when we came in, we did not have any money to hire somebody. And that is why we don't have a human resources. It's in the budget for next year. We will have a human resources person, but you have to be able to afford those things. And we were $4 million in debt when we came in. So that is why we don't have one.
Thank you, Sue. Answering this question first will be Michael. A strong public safety network is imperative to the economic success of any community. How will you and your administrators, if elected mayor, prioritize first responders and ensure they have the tools and resources necessary to excel in their professions? And I should note, we have a whole bunch of firefighters over here to my right. Bigger trucks, is that what you guys want? More axes, taller ladders, that kind of stuff? Okay, great. Michael, you have 60 seconds.
Our first responders are one of our most important people here that work for the city. They go and do some of the most dangerous things that are out there for anybody to do, responding to accidents and not knowing what's going to happen at any moment. And so resourcing those to make sure that they have the supplies and the things that they need to do their job. When I spoke to departments before, I've said, my number one goal as a mayor would be safety. Our employees are our most important asset in the city, and making sure that they go home every night after their shift or whenever their shift ends is going to be a priority for my administration, to make sure that they are given the resources and that they are trained and kept in a way that they can come home safe.
Sue, you have 60 seconds.
I think we have proved that safety and our first responders are a priority with us. This year we gave our firemen and policemen bigger raises than they've ever gotten. And we have provided our fire department with a new engine that should be coming in the first of the year, $1 million engine. They've been provided with tools. The Redevelopment Commission gave the police and fire $75,000 out of our budget to get things that they felt they needed. Our police have been equipped with all kinds of things, new computers, body cams. We have provided more officers in our schools. One of the things I promised when I came in is that we would bring Portage police officers back in our schools, and we have them back in our schools. In fact, we've added them, and we've added them to our elementary schools. So we have not ignored our public safety people at all. And we are working with the county. I'm encouraging them.
That's your time. Austin, you have 60 seconds.
I wish I had more time, but to say what I can in 60 seconds. First off, every city employee is a first responder when the situation comes. Earlier this year, we had someone from the sanitation department save somebody. I want to say that when it comes to how we learn about what they need, you go out and you talk to them, and I've spent this year doing this. I'm honored to have the endorsement of our Portage firefighters, and I'm honored to have met with so many other city officials and our police and have the support of so many. What I will say is that there are some big things that matter. One, we got to prioritize pay, and we also need to have a plan to be able to not just give a raise now, but pay for it in the future. We got to prioritize training, and it's not going to happen overnight, but how do we have the funds to have a training center for police and fire here? How do we make sure that we're replacing all the equipment we need on time that needs to be replaced on time? And how do you make sure that contracts are signed on time with the respect to the pay and the needs of our city's workers? If you'd like to talk to our firefighters after this debate, I encourage you to learn more about what it's been like from the public safety perspective of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a reminder that you are listening, if this is on the radio, to the Portage Mayoral debate. Joining us this evening is the incumbent Democratic Mayor, Sue Lynch, Republican challenger Austin Bonta, and Green Party candidate Michael Cooper. If you are watching live via Facebook stream, all of the same stuff that I just said. Answering first on this next question will be Sue. A couple of questions have come in about businesses. I'm going to do my best to combine both of them into one question. What is your plan to bring business development to Portage, and what does that look like? The second question being, what is your plan to, quote, cut the red tape, end quote, of permit approvals to allow businesses into Portage? You have 60 seconds.
So I work faithfully with the Economic Development Department, and we try to reach out to new businesses in the city. As far as red tape, there's a process that any company has to go through to come to the city, and it protects our residents as well as the other businesses. So when a business comes in and wants a permit, they have to go through a process, and it's a fair process. It protects our city. We want businesses in our city. We have sold a lot of property recently. We have sold all the property across the street from City Hall. We have a business coming in there. We are inviting businesses. We brought Tractor Supply. We have gotten Planet Fitness. We went through a COVID. It was a little bit difficult to get businesses to come in our city. And the other overlying thing is when we bring a business into the city, our citizens need to support that business, or they will leave our city.
Thank you, Sue. Austin, you have 60 seconds.
Portage's biggest economic asset right now, besides our lakefront and the water, is the fact that we have 44 million people who drive through this city every year on our highways. We have a surrounding population of near 70,000 people, and we can be the hub of that. If I had more time, I could go through the history of businesses that have tried to come to Portage and left shattered. Companies that have spent $158,000 to send a letter through their attorney that says, we're done with Portage. That's been tragic. But what I will also say is tragic is not just the big businesses that have struggled to come here, but the small. Whether that's the lady who's opening a business in Chesterton because she kept going back and forth with the city until her last straw was that they wouldn't let her husband, who's a union painter, paint the place. Everybody, almost everybody I've met knocking on doors either has had the experience or knows somebody who's had the experience of trying to get a renovation done in their home, calling somebody who is able to do good work in other places, and they're told, we don't even try in Portage, it's too hard to get it done there. It's not a hatchet. We need a scalpel, but we need to address
Austin.
this.
That's your time. Michael, 60 seconds.
Yeah, I have no idea where they're getting this idea. You know, I've been going to a lot of the, pretty much all the planning commissions and the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I have never seen them really deny anything. You know, small businesses, we have plenty of vacant commercial property ready for people to move in, and strip malls all around the city. Large businesses, they have come to the city boards, many that Austin has sat on, requesting variances after variances, and every time they've got approved. So I have no idea what Austin is talking about. Austin is using this as some kind of meme for the city of Portage. But there has been a lot of businesses that have been moving into Portage, and they are getting TIF money. They're getting money to they're getting variances to go against our development standards. Anything that they want, they have been getting, and I have been seeing that. So I'm not sure what Austin is seeing in this.
Thank you, Michael, and I'll put on my teacher voice. Please keep your cell phones on silent or vibrate during the duration of the debate. Thank you. Otherwise, I will have to answer them and talk to whoever you are talking to. my students were smarter than me. They never let me catch the phone usage. Austin, you'll be answering this next question first. The city of Portage is dealing with aging infrastructure. Where are the trouble spots, and how do you plan to help move Portage forward?
The biggest issue we have in Portage is that our population is outgrowing our tax base. I guess there are people who don't know this, but I feel free to go and talk to all the people who nodded their head when I talked about having a hard time getting approval for something done in your home or for a small business. It's out there. When people come to the Plan Commission, they see the finished product ready to go with a city attorney giving them a letter saying, this is good to go, and if you vote no, you can get sued. What we need to address is the path to the Plan Commission, the path that involves the DRC and our building department and the planning department. We are very behind other cities when it comes to being able to build the kind of robust economy that we should have. And economic growth is not just about not having to drive all the way to Valpo or Maryville to shop and dine. It's how we have the property tax base that pays for our city's aging infrastructure to be replaced and improved. It's how we pay to fully fund our public safety and our equipment for our city. So for me, addressing the economic needs is how we finance and improve the rest of the city.
Michael, you have 60 seconds.
Infrastructure improvements under the last Republican administration, including the painting of crosswalks on Central Avenue with paint that washed away in 2 days. I'm not sure if it was latex or enamel. A testament to the lack of effectiveness of their leadership and their waste of public money. Under the current administration, an emergency road repair contract procedure was used to repair a portion of Airport Road. This process, used by Mayor Lynch, should have only been used in cases of urgent repair, such as a roadway that had been washed away by a flood. Yet, the people were driving along Airport Road that very day. What it did, it used a less than 30-day public process that significantly inflated the cost to that infrastructure fix. Infrastructure improvements in Portage have been hampered by a system that is focused on pet projects for the benefit of special interests and political friends. I will change that.
Thank you, Michael. Sue, you have 60
I totally
seconds.
disagree with the Reverend Cooper because we have done infrastructure projects. We are working on the wastewater treatment plant right now. It's something that's been sorely neglected in our city by almost every mayor. Our wastewater treatment plant clarifiers are 43 years old, and they have never been replaced. We have an SRF grant into the state right now to replace those, as well as running our plant on solar, 30% solar. We did something this year that has never been done in our city, and that is to do an asset management on our entire underground system. We did it on the sanitary and the stormwater. We did a comprehensive plan on our utilities facilities because we knew they were lacking. When you're bringing new people into the city, you better be sure that they can flush their toilet and that their infrastructure system is working. So we have worked on that. We have been paving, and when we find a place where the paving is bad.
And that's your time. To be continued. Michael, you'll be answering question 10 first. What is your plan to effectively engage and communicate with a community who is not part of social media?
Well, we have a bunch of ways that we can communicate with residents. Cities have been here a lot longer than social media, but reaching out to people, one of the things that I've been glad to do is to walk around the neighborhoods, and I want to continue to focus on our neighborhoods, bringing city meetings into neighborhoods, into into the areas, the common areas where they can be easily assessed. Unfortunately, some of our neighborhoods don't have proper sidewalks, so it might not be accessible at the beginning, but we're going to make a change in that. And so, going out and meeting with the people, reaching out directly to people and to make sure that the information is available for when people need it and they can contact City Hall and get that information.
Sue, you have 60 seconds.
So we have upgraded a lot of our communication with our employees and our residents. One of the things we have is an all-call system. Any resident can sign up for it. They can get texts, they can get emails, or they can get the call system. We have reached out to people through our city council. We now have All of our meetings are live streamed, so the public can just hop on their computer and watch every meeting. If they miss a meeting, they can go back and watch it. They're archived. One of the things that we need to do is get a newsletter, but unfortunately, that is a very expensive item for us, and we have not been able to afford it. But we do everything we can to outreach to the public by making flyers. We have a board in City Hall that goes around to let people know what's coming up. So we do reach out to our various organizations, get flyers in their businesses.
That's your time, Sue. Austin, 60 seconds.
I also want to continue walking door to door as mayor and perhaps making it a little bit more public when I'm going out, like with the schedule, because there are over 14,000 households in Portage, and I'm doing my best to knock door to door, but I don't think I'm going to hit all 14,000 by November 7th. I'm trying my best. I also want to go to a model of having, of course, our city council meetings, which are chaired by the mayor and have time for public input, but also arranging at least quarterly town meetings where people can come in, not to hear us debate and talk about like what's being voted on, but so that people can come in just to give that public input and get updated on what's going on. I've mentioned that it's important that we update the comprehensive plan for the first time in 15 years. That process naturally brings people in if we do it right. It can be done wrong. Some cities will sometimes have it where only 12 people participate and they create a 200-page document, versus some cities that have 300 people participate and they have a 30-page document. You can probably imagine which one you might trust more. I guess what I also want to say is, I won't say it.
You won't? We'll find out later on that one. Just a reminder, folks, if you do have questions this evening, raise your hand. We have members of the junior ROTC here. Where are you kids at? Raise your hands. There's a couple back here against. They're walking around, so just a reminder, hold your hands up and they'll go ahead and get you note cards. That way you can ask questions for the candidates. Answering first on this next question will be Sue. With population growth in the city continuing to climb, how will you continue to address the increased needs for services, including trash pickup, police calls, and fire calls?
We are very aware of that, and like I said, we increased our police force by 8 new police officers since I came into office and 5 new firemen. We are monitoring the growth in our city continuously to make sure that our budget is able to add more police, fire, streets. Every department needs to be evaluated and assessed for their workload. So we are constantly working on that and monitoring that, because you have to have sustained growth and manage your workforce as well as adding new homes. But as you add new homes, you get assessed valuation, and you're able to afford adding those new employees to police, fire, streets. So I don't feel that we're lacking in that. We've been monitoring that since I've been in.
Thank you. Austin, you have 60 seconds.
One of the most important things, and I'm sorry to be so nerdy with this, but it's so important that people understand, is Indiana's 1-2-3 tax cap system. If you own a home in Indiana, your property tax is capped in terms of what revenue we can get out of it to 1% for a home, 2% for a rental or a farm, and 3% for a business. The math is staggering. If you have a $300,000 home, the most coming from that is $3,000. If you have a $4 million restaurant, that's $120,000. You add the fact that with new homes comes the need for increased services. Having a neighborhood financially is kind of like what they used to say about eating celery, when they said you burn more calories from eating it than you get from it. But we got to remember that cities exist for the residents. And that's why I am so proud to have the endorsement of the Northern Indiana Realtors Association, NIRA. They endorsed me because I came in, and as they put it, you're the only politician who actually talked about this in our meeting. And it's something that I was happy to, because they understand we want quality homes of all kind in Portage and a way to serve them.
That's your time. Michael, 60 seconds.
One of the things Portage is not doing is bringing in homes that people can afford. You know, you see a lot of the new growth that is happening in Portage are homes that, you know, most people who want to come into Portage are not going to be able to afford. They're way out of a price point. Portage is growing, and as administrator, you have to be one who is helping to plan for that growth. And that means that we continue to grow into our south side, as, you know, the north side is going to be transitioning more and more into a national park and the recreational and hospitality sector. As our neighborhoods continue to move further south, how do we kind of increase our services down in the southern part of town? One of the things that Sue was looking at doing right now is putting in a huge sports complex center next to Founder Square and a little piece of land. You know, as soon as they build it, it's going to be too small.
That's your time. Answering first on this next question will be Austin. What strategies do you have to reduce crime in the city of Portage?
The biggest thing we have to address is we need to make sure that when it comes to our police department, we have all of our police officers. There's different data that tells you how many cops you should have for your population. We need somewhere around 90. We have, I believe, 78. Please feel free to correct me if I'm off by a number. I'm not trying to get the exact number off. But we got to keep in mind that as of right now, having positions budgeted for is not the same thing as having positions filled. We are 6 officers down right now. We have 6 more retiring in this upcoming year. It's important that we are making plans to address recruitment, not just retention, which we are doing a good job in Portage on retention now, but we also need to be addressing recruitment. Some of the big things that people don't even realize, especially if you grew up here, I had never realized that not every city had a SWAT team. That's actually something that's a huge Portage privilege that I want to maintain, and I think that it's a big way to attract people who are interested in serving as police, just like having a dive team is a big piece of attraction for people coming here to be a firefighter. Our specialty teams are something that are big on
That's your
recruitment.
time. Thank you. Michael, you have 60 seconds.
Yes, one of our biggest problems with our police department, and they have talked about this, and Austin mentions it as well, is recruitment. One of the things that, it's hard for us to bring in new officers into the city, and, one of the things they say, it is the cost. It's the salaries aren't there. But I think part of the reasons is that we don't have targeted human resources that is going to be, recruiting those types of people to come into our city. And that will, definitely free up, if we move a bunch of those responsibilities to a human resources professional, that we free up our administration and our police department to do more time for, protecting our public safety.
Thank you. Sue, 60
I
seconds.
think we recognize that recruitment is down all across the country. We're not the only police department that is struggling. We used to get hundreds of applications, and we don't get them now. For some reason or another, people are anti-police, and our police aren't getting the recruiting numbers that they do, but we do get out there. We have our police department post on all the police sites that they can to recruit new members. One of the things that we did this year is give our police officers an 18% raise over 3 years. And the reason we did that was to enhance the recruitment, and we're doing better with doing that. And I think we have to continuously reach out to other departments. We've brought in more officers because we've increased the pay. We've given them more training, more equipment, body cams. I mean, we've done sorry.
That's your time. I guess not on the record, but theoretically, whoever wins, can I just name drop you if I ever get stopped by Portage Police? Are there any Portage Police in here tonight? Anyway, let's continue on. Answering first on this next question will be Michael. Northern Portage will soon see the double-track extension of the South Shore Line. What is your vision for development in Northern Portage?
Well, thank you. Public transportation, our rail line is an important asset to Portage, and it's been a long-time passion for me. I served on the board of the Association for Public Transportation. I also was a state delegate for the National Association of Railroad Passengers. And one of the things that I had the honor of doing many years ago was to go down to our state house to talk to our local legislators about expanding services along the South Shore line, and that is specifically around in Lake County, extending the South Shore line down to Dyer and hopefully down to Lafayette. Because expanding services in Lake County also means that the increased services that we're going to have here in Portage. So the double tracking is really going to really bring in some abilities for people to find work in Portage, to live in Portage and work downtown, and be able to get back and forth at a very...
That's your time. Sue, you have 60 seconds.
I think the double track is amazing. We've been involved in that entire process. It's going to speed up the transportation from Portage into the city of Chicago. It's also going to enhance that 176 acres we've got up north, because more people are going to move into our city, realizing that that getting into Chicago is going to be a lot quicker. So we are looking at public transportation here in the city as well, and we've done a study a few years back on public transportation in our city, because as we grow, people are going to want to get from here up to the train station, because I think more and more people are going to want to ride the train. So we're very involved with that, as we are with the TOD. And like I said, with that 176 acres up north, you're going to see a lot of development in the next few years. We've had a lot of interest in the city because of that.
Austin, you have 60 seconds.
For me, what's very important, because you think about some other cities with train stations, you get off and there's already a downtown or a beach or something nearby that you can go to. For me, what's very important is that we are able to connect the train with our marinas and with our waterway and with our north side and the development needs that come there. That's why I really want to complete the vision that the city's had for a long time of connecting Burns Drive, making a bridge that goes over the waterway, so you can connect basically Chrisman Road for most people over to the train station. It's not just a matter, though, of you build it and they will come, because you have to do the work to make it buildable so that there's something to do when they get there. That's why it's important we straighten out our future land use, straighten out the property ownership and the zoning issues on our north side so that people can come in and build as it's zoned. And it's also why we got to make sure that it's smoother to get a business approved and consistent to get a business approved in city, because we want our north side to be our core. I actually am someone who believes it's very important the north end of Portage stays our main spot.
That's your time. Thank you, Austin. Answering first on this next question is going to be Sue. This comes from the audience. Is the Willow Creek extension good for Portage? And if not, what is a good alternative?
The Willow Creek extension?
Yes.
Yes. I think it will be good for Portage in that it will bring more business into our city, but my major concern with the Willow Creek extension is that it will bring heavy traffic through our city that we are trying to develop. So I think we've been kind of left out of that process, and we haven't been included in the planning of that. I am for the extension, but I don't want the heavy traffic coming through our city. So I want them to sit down at the table with us and talk to us about how they are going to rectify that problem, because our Willowcreek Road was not built for the heavy traffic coming off of the toll road and 8094 onto Willow Creek. So I do not want it to impact the things that we are doing on Willow Creek Road to build businesses.
Thank you. Austin, you have 60 seconds.
I support the creation of a thoroughfare between 30 and 94. Whether or not that Willow Creek Road is the right spots for it is for the most part out of our city's hands. I've had a lot of discussions with county officials. I am concerned about the traffic end of it, don't get me wrong, but there are actually some great ideas the county has to mitigate that. What concerns me is that we need to learn the lessons from Lake County when other streets like Indianapolis Boulevard went further south, when Broadway goes further south. I don't want businesses and people to start moving to the hot new area that's going to be Union Township unless we have our stuff in Portage worked out first. The way that I want to address that, and I've been having some great conversations with some people who are probably waiting to see if I win, if it actually happens, but to create what's called an extraterritorial planning district south of 700. In Indiana, a city through county ordinance can have control of the zoning and the permitting for up to 2 miles outside of its boundary on unincorporated land. We can incorporate that into our zoning and our planning to make sure that for the most part, housing and business development is happening in our city first.
That's your time. Michael, 60 seconds.
I'm against the extension of Willow Creek, and the reason I'm against it is because it is going to bring a lot more traffic into Portage. What the state is not telling us, the Willow Creek extension, for those who don't know, is going to be extending Willow Creek straight down to US 30. My concern is once they get to 30, what's going to stop them from going all the way down to 65, down by where it curves just past Rensselaer? So that means when there's anything that's happening on 65, all the GPSs are going to be diverting people up and to connect to down Willow Creek to connect to the highways to the north. Mayor Lynch, in terms of Willow Creek, she has talked about giving a portion of Willow Creek on the north side to the state because she didn't want to pay for that road anymore. But we need to keep Willow Creek as a central part of Portage. We need to keep Willow Creek as kind of the main thoroughfare that is not going to be full of trucks.
That's your time. Answering this next question first is going to be Austin. Portage has some great natural resources, but Northwest Indiana also has significant sources of pollution. What will you do to keep Portage environmentally sound?
We have to start by knowing what all of our options are, because in Indiana, and this is not my favorite thing about Indiana, a lot of those environmental issues are state regulated rather than city regulated. And getting our way into it can be complicated. Feel free to talk to me after the debate. I just don't want to use up 60 seconds on the big list. But what I will say when it comes to our natural resources and things we can do in Portage, I am very big on working with the council to create what I call an urban forest ordinance, which is land management to maintain our identity as an urban forest. Because I grew up in a city full of trees with development, and I want to make sure it continues that way, especially with if there is going to be development south of 6, and there is going to be some no matter what, we want to make sure that it matches that identity of the rest of the city. Right now, we're seeing issues where people, they don't like seeing the trees get cut down, and they're very frustrated when they find out the city rule is you need to have a tree survey, basically a census of all the trees there, but there's no protected trees. You just have to have a list of them before they're cut down. I want to work on making it so that we're doing a better job of preserving that identity, because trees are big for a lot.
Michael, you have 60 seconds.
Portage has to do a lot better for our natural environment. What goes into our air and our streams, really affects local communities and neighborhoods. What goes into our streams goes into Little Calumet, goes into Burns Ditch, goes into the Willow Creek, the actual creek, not the road, that meanders through the full length of Portage, and that flows into the National Park in Lake Michigan. Yet under the Plan Commission that Austin served on in the Lynch administration, the buffer zones along Willow Creek have been destroyed, like what they allowed to happen next to Aldi's at the auto body shop that strip cleared the buffer, the wetlands along the creek. I fought hard against Sue's selling of land on the north side PUD, part of those acreages that she talks about, that 180, whatever, she's already sold part of it. And that is gone, and that was land that was set aside by Mayor Doug Olson for his vision of a conservation-focused development.
That's your time. Sue, you have 60 seconds.
Just to correct Reverend Cooper, we have not sold any of that property yet. But one of the things is I'm very environmental. I've been an environmentalist my whole life. And we bailed out our parks who were woefully underfunded and understaffed. And this year we fought hard to get a better budget for our parks so that we could work on the 15 parks that need help in our city. The reason that I am so pro the library garden is because once a library garden's done, it will be gifted to the library so we don't have to take on one more park. We need more staff. We need an urban forest plan. We have 3 beautiful trails running through our city, but it takes a lot of manpower and a lot of maintenance to maintain them. And so the biggest thing we need to do is add staff and finances to our parks so that we can grow our urban forest and repair it.
That's your time. We'll follow up on the Portage Parks. Answering first on this question will be Michael. Portage Park and Recreation has dealt with years of being underfunded. If elected mayor, how will you prioritize funding for the Parks and Recreation Department?
First, let me correct, I looked today at the map, and part of that land has been already deeded over. The Parks Department, 4 years ago, Mayor Lynch gave much fanfare to the restoration plans around the historic Garrettton School as a public space. Yet after $1 million capital investment to keep that building from falling down by the city, the building has remained vacant. Now Sue is considering spending over $2.5 million redoing the Lakefront Pavilion, which we developed just less than 10 years ago, which Sue complained about 4 years ago, claiming that it would be a new community, and she now is complaining saying that's going to be the new community space here in Portage. The Portage keeps spending money on Sue's whims and lacks the initiative to attack the structural and programmatic problems in our park system. These problems stem from consistent underfunding by our city council and the lack of leadership from our appointed park board. Our city has lots of park space.
That's your time, Michael. Sue, you have 60 seconds.
So as far as Garrison goes, we have an interested buyer in Garrison. We are waiting for the Ready Grant money to come out, and we hope that we will be able to transition the Garrison building. Unfortunately, we're waiting on the government to give us the guidelines for the 2.0 Ready Grant. We are working on things like the pavilion up north. We spent $2 million to build that pavilion, and then it was not usable. It's wide open, the air comes through, you can't enjoy it because either the winds or it's freezing cold up there. And we have a wonderful opportunity to turn that into a maker space in our city. We have someone from our council, Scott Williams, who is working faithfully on that. They have created their nonprofit, so that is going to be usable. It's going to be something wonderful for our city. We're not wasting money up there. We're not spending any more money up there. We're getting grants to develop that area.
And that's your time. Austin, you have 60 seconds.
Question on parks. I think first off, our park department has been doing an amazing job, not just in helping to put this together, but so many of the events around our city, I kind of think of it like a movie. It's like if you're a director, each time you do better, you should be able to get more. One of the big things that I really want to look at, and we got to work with the council on this, is that Portage has a rule that shocks a lot of developers when they come here. They scratch their heads, and I've been at those plan commission meetings where we have a park impact fee. Every time you build a new home, there's this fee that goes to the parks. We put a rule on ourselves, though, that money can only be spent on new parks and new stuff for it. I'd like to work to change that rule so that it can go into the park fund and we can use it to take care of the parks we already have. Grants were mentioned, and I'm glad that they were. I want to hire a professional grant writer for the city. I might need to work with the clerk treasurer's office to get that done, but I think that for a city as grant dependent as Portage is, we should be taking that more out of the hands of our departments and putting it into the hands of a professional. I always like to say a good grant writer pays for themselves.
Thank you. Answering first on the next question will be Sue. The city has had to borrow millions of dollars to get out of debt in order to pay bills and make payroll. What is your plan to make the city financially solvent without federal dollars?
Well, we are working on that, and we are getting out of debt, believe it or not. When we first came in, like I said, we were $4 million in debt. And so we have been working with our clerk treasurer's office to cut expenses. We have cut redundancies. When we came in, we had 3 IT companies. We cut that back down. We've merged it into one company. We've cut a lot of redundancies. We were paying for telephones that were sitting in boxes that weren't even on people's desks. So we have had to go through and call out all the redundancies that we have had in the city and try to reduce them. That's why I only have 1 staff person. I don't have a chief of staff like other cities do. I don't have a human resources person because, frankly, we just didn't have the money to pay those people. We did give our police, fire, streets, our utilities, they all got raises, but we cut off things that we didn't feel were essential.
Thank you. Austin, 60 seconds.
As a business owner, I can tell you there are some things in life that you just can't afford. There are some things you can't afford right now, but then there are the things you can't afford not to have. I believe that a human resources department is one of those things you can't afford not to have, same as a grant writer. But when it comes to actually getting the city financially sound, this is where that celery example that I gave earlier matters so much. We want to have good, positive home growth in Portage, and we want to have it done in such a way that the density is in the right places. More dense in the core, less dense as you start to spread out. But in order to really have the revenue we need to pay for public safety, for infrastructure, to be able to pay for the kinds of employees we need in a city of our size, and to be able to work our way out of debt, we have to have a strong business base because that also creates a strong tax base. It also helps with employment and keeping people here, and I do think it helps with recruitment because if you've got firefighters and cops who want to live here and work here, I think they stay longer. But altogether, That business base is key. I know how to do it, and I'm excited to get started on it once I'm elected mayor.
Thank you. Michael, 60 seconds.
One of the biggest challenges that we have for our budget is our TIF. That takes money out of our tax base, money from our schools, money from our boards, from our council. So, we've been facing that challenge, and it's been a very difficult challenge. One of the things that Sue had in her favor this past cycle is that she had $8 million in COVID relief money that really was able to pull the city through, get it through the mismanagement of the past. So the city has spent all that money, unlike other cities like Valpo that have about $4 million left. Portage really has nothing left. That's all spent, all allocated. So that COVID money is gone. Austin, he got a PPP loan and got that forgiven. Unlike me, who had to work during COVID, I was laid off and had this is collar.
That's your time. Reminder for the audience as we wrap up this evening's debate, please hold your applause until the end of the debate after the closing statements. A year ago now, about 8 months ago, we were here, and my favorite question ever was submitted from an audience member in Portage. Some of you know what's coming. You do. Answering first on this question will be Austin. Austin should know what's coming. What is something about the opposing candidates that would make them a good fit to be mayor of Portage?
If I could start with Michael, he is persistent. He shows up at Plan Commission meetings, BZA meetings, City Council meetings. He takes time for that. He's met with me. I know we're all up here debating, but we've met in person and talked things out before. That's what you do when you're trying to run for office and you're trying to include everybody. But this is a persistent person, and although I don't always agree with everything he thinks or wants to do, that persistency is a positive trait. And when there's something we agree on, I'm glad that we've got somebody so persistent. Sue is resilient. Every single time I talk to somebody who's about the city that knows something, they all say, "Are you sure want this job?" And I have to tell them, yes. But Sue had to take it on 4 years ago, where, as she mentioned, things were not in great shape. And for her to come in and work on that, it's incredible. And it takes that kind of resolute person to get things done. There are things we disagree with. There's things that we agree with. There's things that I think that Sue's done an amazing job on. I'm not coming to undo everything, but there's some things I think we need to be working on that we should be.
Michael, you have 60 seconds.
I would like to highlight Sue's unique sense of humor, which is very underrated. I recall sitting in the back of a Board of Works meeting, and the general manager for Hooters was requesting permission to host a Hooter Girl pageant. Sue got a blank look on her face and asked what the girls were being judged on, perhaps thinking talent or evening gown. I'm gay, and I know exactly what those women were going to be judged on. She had the GM speechless, and I was just about doubled up on the floor laughing. It's her sense of humor even when she voted to approve the request for the objectification of women. Austin has worked very well with the Democrats as a Republican, able to cross the ideological aisle to coordinate activities and work towards their common goal of attacking liberalism and squashing every spark of progressive resistance to corrupted power in City Hall. He is able to bend the needs of this Democrat-controlled administration, rise in the authority of several boards, including gaining powerful leadership roles as a reward for his loyalty.
Sue, 60 seconds.
Yes, I've known Austin for a long time. He's a fine young man, and he comes to all the meetings, he participates. He's been on boards for many years, and he's tried to make things better for the city. And I appreciate his passion for our city, because I think in the future you're going to see big things coming from Austin. And the Reverend Cooper, we go back and forth a lot of times, but he's another passionate person for our city. And he's out there, he challenges us. He challenges us on things. He's not always right, but he's there. He's there, and he's out there for the residents of the city and protecting the area that he has concerns about. So I think both of these gentlemen are fine people in our city. I know that the Reverend Cooper has been very focused on diversity in our city, and he's always harping at us about that. And I appreciate that, because we need to do a better job at that. So thank you both for participating in our city.
Thank you. And this will be the final question of the evening before closing statements. So we've talked a lot tonight about the problems with Portage and how you would work to solve them during your term as mayor. Now, I want to know what makes it the best, what makes this, reading is hard. Now I want to know what is the best thing about the city of Portage that makes you want to not only run for mayor, but to live here, raise your families here, and continue. Answering first on this will be Michael.
Neighborhoods, our community. We have a wonderful sense of community here in Portage. The people really are engaged in the processes of our city, of our democracy, and able to come together in these times to really provide a direction for us. We all get to talk to our residents out on the campaign trail, some of us more than others probably, but we do get to engage with the residents and hear what they have to say, and they have a lot to say. So, our residents are our best asset, and what we can rely on as we do the work we have to do for the city.
Thank you. Sue, 60 seconds.
I agree with the Reverend Cooper. I think our people are our best asset in our city. I go back to COVID and when everybody was kind of cooped up in their house, people were out there, they were feeding our children at school. There were thousands of children. Our YMCA, we had a together group that worked to feed our children, our seniors, and make sure everybody was taken care of. And I think that speaks for our city. When someone is in need in our city, everyone comes forward and helps them out. We don't judge those people. We don't say, well, I'm not helping them because they're something I don't help. They're wonderful. The people in our city come together. They support our school children. They support all of our service organizations. I don't see that in other cities like I see it here. So I believe that our citizens are our biggest asset in this city.
Thank you. Austin, 60 seconds.
We live in the region, Northwest Indiana, but I'm always proud to call it the region. When I had to go to college a little further away, I was very proud to say I was from the region and explain to some people what that meant. Us up here, we always have this question of what counts as the region. Almost everyone agrees Hammond's in it, for example, but then we debate things like, well, does Lowell really count? Is DeMont too far? I think that Portage is really that perfect spot that really completes the identity of Northwest Indiana. And I think it's starting to show geographically too. As more people are moving to Indiana from Illinois, more people are moving from Lake County to Porter County, and as a city like LaPorte has a goal to increase to 30,000 people, Portage is becoming the geographical center of Northwest Indiana. And I think that that is an amazing thing because we've always been, I think, that right blend of the sort of Indiana-Illinois culture. And I think that a stable Portage can be the anchor of all of Northwest Indiana, and I think it gives us something to be proud of, especially if we do it right.
Thank you, Austin. And just a reminder before the closing statements this evening, early voting begins October 23rd and goes through November 6th. You can find out the results of this race, along with all the others across Northwest Indiana, on election night, Tuesday, November 7th, from 7 to 9 p.m. on Lakeshore Public Media, 89.1 FM. You'll be hearing me. And don't forget, if you want to find out more information about not only this race, but your other municipal races as well, you can visit vote411.org. And as we did on the opening statements, we now go in reverse order for the closing statements. 60 seconds for the closing statement. Sue, you'll begin.
A child first learns to crawl before they walk, and the office of the mayor is not the place to start. I've been involved in government on many levels in my life, a precinct person, 6 years on the Portage Township Board, 12 years on the City Council, and your mayor the last 4 years. It is through these experiences and my years as an executive director of an environmental organization, the current secretary for NERPC's executive board, and 16 years on the county waste board that makes me the most experienced, knowledgeable, and candidate to continue to be your mayor. The relationships I have with Congressman Van and our state and federal officials has brought millions of new money into our city after 8 years of financial disarray. Portage is back on track and we are moving forward. And I want to continue to be your mayor and keep us moving forward. And that is why experience matters.
Thank you. Michael, you have 60 seconds.
Portage is a lot more than our short history as a city. We are a growing city. We're a more diverse, more open, and more progressive city. It's time to pull City Hall forward to represent who we are today as a community. We need to usher in a new era for Portage focused on healthy communities, becoming a regional leader in green jobs and green technologies, affordable child care for our young and working families, growing into our national park, creating a targeted focus on revitalizing our hospitality sector, on reestablishing our community arts and traditional crafts programs, on advocating for Medicare for all, because health care is a human right. As you make your informed vote this November 7th, join me in pulling Portage forward with a sensible, progressive vision for our city. You can find out more about me on my website, www.reverendmichaelforportage.com, and may God bless this great city and the great people of Portage.
Austin, 60 seconds.
This city is where I grew up. It's where I moved back after I graduated college and got married. It's where I taught as a special education teacher for 6 years in our schools, working with students with behavioral needs and academic needs. It's where my wife and I eventually started our small but continuing to grow business, and which is a business that people are traveling all over Northwest Indiana for to come. And I'm very proud of that, and I'm glad to be a homeowner and to have built a stable life in Portage, to have grown up to be the person in my hometown that I wanted to be. I've also gotten to know this city very well as a member of the Plan Commission for 6 years, and by the time I stepped down, being the second most senior member of the Plan Commission. We had a lot of turnover back then. Getting to know our departments, especially through my work on the Fire Merit Board, I know the inner workings of the city, and I'm doing something a little bit new for me, which is stepping out and actually trying to have more of a public, official role, not just being a board appointee. But that said, I'm hoping that you'll join me in this movement for a positive new direction in Portage.
Thank you all. Thank you all. You can go home. Thank you all. Thank you.